if you develop a document, you should be able to print it photo-ready artwork. You should be able to fax it through your PC in the network. You should be able to attach it to an email message and send it someplace. Basically, if you don't have a computer, you're not communicating. Okay? That's how vital it is. So here, the job they did as a professional just 3 or 4 years ago, and they did just fine doing it. Now they've got to interface with this box on their desk to get it done. And it's frustrating. The split between their own job and developing expertise in technology. Some, they're feeling like, gosh, now I've got to go back to school to learn how to use a word processor to do what I did just fine a couple of years ago without a computer. Okay? That's the position most of them are faced with. You look at the traditional service model, and it somewhat relates to the OSI layers for you network geeks in the audience. Way up at the top is the application layer, and CALI is all about the application. What kind of phenomenal things are we doing with the technology to help train students, create productivity, make new applications that are wonderful? But below that, there's the protocol layer on the network. The standards of communication back and forth to make sure all the hardware is connected and working. And there's the infrastructure. And some of us here at CALI are focused on infrastructure. We're expanding it, we're making it bigger, we're building new buildings, we're making sure there's enough ports available, we're considering wireless. But they build like that. You must have an infrastructure, you must have standards and protocols, and then you can deliver applications. But what DG2 is, because I haven't even answered that, and I'm sure everybody's wondering, is the glue in between there. It's the missing part of this model. They don't teach it in IT, school, computer science programs, and certainly nobody's had enough time to, teach it in any other. And training are things that are often addressed after the fact. Okay, got to build the infrastructure. You focus on that, put servers online, and establish protocols, and get workstations talking, and then you throw out the applications. You got to have a word processor and some email and stuff like that. And then support's kind of an afterthought for the organization. Meanwhile, where do users stand? Okay, the IT industry is very reactionary. Oh, there's some problems with technology, so let's build a help desk. I don't think that's an ideal model. That's not a good solution. I think if there's problems with how we're delivering IT and it's causing them any questions, fix the problems. Don't create some center to try to answer the questions. That's really a stopgap solution, to run an IT desk. But I think a service desk has a real important role in an organization. And I'm going to talk about how we've evolved our help desk operation into a service desk or a consolidated operations management desk. But it's not from a reactionary perspective. I think you have to solve the problems, not react to the symptoms. DG2 uses second-generation implementation integration strategies for desktop computing services. Now, I tried my hardest to describe it any simpler than that, and there just is, maybe one day I'll think of how to do it. But let me break it down a little bit. It's how you implement the tools that are available to you today and integrate them into your existing structure of personnel and equipment so that you're building in the support and service at the same time you're making services available. Okay? Now, there's nothing about DG2 that's a new invention. We didn't program it. It's not a product. We're not going to package it and try to sell you another, vendor-created solution because 95% of them don't work. They create more problems than they solve. Again, it's a very reactionary thing. DG2 is basically concerned with how to keep systems stable. What good is it if it doesn't work when you go to use it? Number one concern. How the IT staff will be able to support the users. Not how to provide user support. There's an important distinction to be made there. Okay? How is your IT staff, even if it's just you, able to support the users when you roll the service out? And how users can be effectively trained on new introductions. And this is a pet peeve of mine because I went through every transition and option flavor available of how to deliver education to my users. I brought in consultants. I had an educational manager full-time on staff. I had computer-based training. We tried, you name it, we tried it, it all stinks. There's nothing out there that's good. Even if you send your people off to these very expensive classes, statistics say that out of a 4-hour class, your user will remember about 2 minutes. Okay? And the chances of them remembering how to do a mail merge at the time they need to do it is next to nil. It's not going to happen, even if they completely understood it in the class. DG2 kind of solved that problem for us as a pleasant surprise, and I'll explain how. Now, the purpose of DG2 is simply this: reduce the time-consuming routine procedures of the IT staff. How do you spend your time? How does your staff spend their time supporting your technology? Is it in there showing that technical how to print a document for the 15th time? Is it out there explaining to a user why that new screensaver they just downloaded off the internet made their word processor quit working? Okay, well, we know what happens. We understand how it happens. There's a system registry and all that kind of stuff. Users don't care, and they don't believe us. What do you mean to tell me if that screensaver worked for a friend down the hall, he didn't have any problems with it? This is your word processor. This is your system. This is your problem, and I can't do my job because of it. Okay? That's how my staff is spending a lot of their time. Deliver reliable, safe, and consistent tools to the user. And in that order: reliable, safe, secure, and consistent. Create an opportunity for the IT staff to train, develop, and resolve. And this is how I solved my staff retention problem. Okay? Because after we implemented DG2 at the University of Miami about 18 months ago, my staff retention rate went way up. I had people come back from corporate positions for less money to work with us because we solved the problems that even corporate America is facing today, and they can't seem to manage. And DG2 is pretty much the new platform for services and data on the network. If you don't follow the principles that I'm going to describe in DG2, you can roll out all the grandiose applications and software you want to, and it's going to crumble. Because you've got to have infrastructure and protocols and then applications, and DG2 is kind of the philosophy that holds it all together and keeps it from falling apart. Now, how we developed it was this. We were facing all these same problems many of you are facing, and we started by looking at more mature technologies for examples that work. Hey, computers and networks aren't the first technology to hit modern civilization. Why is this one so difficult? Why does this one cost us so much money? Billions of dollars a year. Why do our turnover rates look like they do? Why is the frustration level where it's at? Okay, and I thought, well, maybe it's just because we're in the middle of this transition, but I guarantee you that putting telephones on people's desks didn't cause this kind of turmoil. Okay? We looked at some technologies that worked, that were actually able to be supported. We applied re-engineering techniques to IT services, and if any of you have read Hammer and Champy, Re-Engineering Incorporation, they're real good friends of mine. They don't know it, but they're real good friends of mine because their principles really do work. If you can stay away from all the people that kind of, bastardize the phrase and turn it into a buzzword and all that kind of stuff. Re-engineering at its core really works, and it really worked, I think, miracles for us. We didn't develop DG2 by inventing, but by using current technology available. Hey, you gotta use what's out there. If Microsoft's running the show, you use Microsoft products. And there's some standards to follow to choose what to use. And DG2 was also developed by keeping our primary purpose in mind at all times. What's the primary purpose, the definition? Technology is here to enhance the user's ability to do their job. And I love this quote. Using technology just for the sake of using technology is like taking cocaine. It's expensive, fascinating to use, doesn't last long, and in the end, a very poor choice. Now, I apologize to those of you who are offended by this, but I'm from Miami. What kind of analogy did you expect? Creating DG2. We analyzed two industries, the telecom and the cable television industries. We learned two things. Standards were everywhere, in both cases. Okay? And service professionals were trained and empowered to fix the problem. All right? They didn't treat the symptoms of the problems, they solved the causes. Now, I went back and defined an ideal system. Reliable services, consistent methods to get to them, secured from unauthorized use, protected. Users have got to be safe from destroying themselves inadvertently. Okay? And then, over the course of time, we developed 3 laws of success for implementing IT services. Number one, make the service reliable. I've said that about 3 times now. But again, it holds true. If it doesn't work, why do you have it? Number 2, if it isn't secure, from the user's perspective, it isn't worth the risk of using it. You've got to take care of those 2 things all the time with every service that's introduced. Now the users, and maybe even your deans and administration and pressure from other law schools that are doing phenomenal things, are going to try to put these other things in priority for you. Well, we need a faster system. We need more speed. We need more features. There's a new version out, and we got to upgrade this thing, and I need to be able to customize that. Let me suggest to you that if you're going to survive with any level of happiness in this career at all, take care of number 1 and number 2 before addressing number 3. Because if it don't work, and if it's not secure, what good is it? Okay? And if you go to number 3 and try to deliver services before you take care of number 1 and 2 and problems happen, who are they going to blame? That's your responsibility as an IT professional to take care of number 1 and 2 first. Okay? It makes the introduction of services a little slower, but that's your job. That's why you're getting paid the big bucks. Truths of standardization. Whoops, I keep leaning on this keyboard. Okay. You knew I was going to get to this. Standardization is a bad word in academia. It makes the faculty members, hit the ceiling when you mention it. First of all, the truth of it, it's not a 4-letter word. It's not a bad thing. Second truth is it's absolutely essential to effective user support and IT staff training and retention. Okay? If you aren't standardized with what you're supporting, you can't support it. How can you expect? Okay, let me take an analogy here. What if your telephone was as customizable as Windows 95? Think about that for a minute. You know the first thing my users would do? They'd put the buttons in the order that they felt most comfortable with. Then they'd add the features that they thought were cool. And then, when things got cobbled up enough that their phone stopped working because they added these services without any consideration for the other services like dial tone, they would expect to call the operator and say, fix the phone. Now, you wouldn't have a chance, you wouldn't stand a chance of being able to help that user if they can modify things like that. Well, that's exactly what we're giving users in their PCs, isn't it? Okay? So basically a choice. You want support, you want answers to your questions when you call the help desk, or you want this, inherent, your natural God-given right to modify your PC at will. It's a choice, okay? It's like this or this. There's no balance there. There's a little bit of a balance. Because our goal is to protect them, not imprison them. I'm not talking about locking them up so tight they can only do 5 things and back to the days of the dumb terminal connected to a mainframe, okay? But IT has got to achieve stability and supportability, and that means standards. Traditional rules apply trying to get your standards implemented. User buy-in is essential. I sat in weekly committee meetings with faculty members discussing all the nitty-gritty details of standardization, operating systems, hardware specs, trying to get them to figure out, what's their business and what's our business as IT professionals. Because they're smart and they understand and they're very good at what they do, they think that generally applies to about anything, including computers. It doesn't. So I had to hold my ground on certain things like, what operating system we choose has really got nothing to do with your personal preferences. Compromise is good. Okay, if you get in there and you start talking to them about how you're going to standardize and you get a compromise, that's good. Because remember, you're just looking for stability, supportability. The results are worth it. This is the key to everything that we've done, is being able to standardize. Imagine those standards in the telephone industry. And what my director did, Ellen Greenfield, she is the best. Because she's the one who championed the cause when we needed staff and when we needed a real budget and when we needed a boss to report to on occasion. And she went and knocked door to door on every faculty member's office and sat down with them and brought up this topic of standardization. And everyone had the same reaction to it. Oh, it's bad. It is, by nature, an evil-minded plan of the IT staff to inhibit my academic freedom to exercise, and then she used this automotive analogy, and she said, when you buy a car, you get a lot of options. Generally, you don't get to configure those options. Could you imagine if you went to GM and ordered your new car and said, instead of the gas on the right, I want the gas on the left because I really like to brake with my right foot. And that engine makes way too much noise up front, so move it to the back. I like it in the back better. Now, what mechanic is going to have a chance of supporting that? And you know what happened? Neat thing happened. Light bulbs went on with every faculty member, because at least, even if they weren't in favor of standardization, they could see that there was some merit to it, that it was necessary, at least at some level. Okay? And that's how we did it. We went door to door and explained it one at a time. And she told her little automotive analogy, to 50 faculty members, one at a time. There are places you can't compromise when you get into the negotiation side of standardization. There's got to be one operating system flavor. We chose Windows NT. All right? You might have your own reason for choosing whatever. We went with NT Workstation, but there needs to be one hardware configuration. Okay? Our hardware on the desktop now is identical right down to the version of the BIOS. Everything. Identical. This solved a lot of other corollary issues too, like which faculty gets the newest computer. They're all the same. The other, I put at least a very few, because what we ended up doing is you've got to put space in between your hardware purchases because it's too damn expensive to buy at one time. So we got all of our faculty and staff on identical systems. Now we're doing the students, so we're going to have 2, but they're separated by user population, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can do faculty and library and administrators and students, but you're going to want to really keep this minimized. That's key. Now, we couldn't afford to buy 250 new computers for our faculty and staff at one time either. I did have a tool to work with, and I hope that most of you out there are in the process of championing the cause to get a budget. It's important to know how much money you have to work with, okay, up front. Because I can take that figure and say, well, I can buy about a third of the computers right now. So I got creative and said, I need every computer to be identical, or I'm not going to be able to support this. So I did a lease purchase through Gateway, and I'm paying for them over 3 years. Okay? Now, the finance people are going to tell you, that's stupid, because computers are a bad investment. They lose their value so quickly. But you know, when you compare it to the cost of not having the same hardware out there, it's a real good investment. Okay? It didn't cost us that much to finance them over 3 years. IT professional issues. Don't compromise here. Network protocols, network operating system client, logging requirements, management and configuration utilities. Okay? That's not for even really smart faculty members to decide. That's your job. Okay? Don't lock them down when it's not essential. Public workstations, well, realize the value of locking those things up real tight. But we did a couple of things when we standardized. We hid their local hard drive, but we didn't restrict access to it. This kept our silent majority of users from saving data on the local hard drive. Okay? But when the users called and complained that they couldn't install their special financial aid application or the special thing over there, they tried to blame, well, it's because we can't get to our local hard drive. We would inform them, well, yes, you can. We made some real basic rules. Okay? What we deliver, we're going to support 100%. And we wrote some really aggressive SLA service level agreements for our users to get them to buy in. Any problem you have with your local computer, we will fix in 60 minutes or less. Okay? I've had professors with total local hard drive failures. And in 60 minutes or less, I think the last one we did, there's been 3 so far, I was actually down in about 35 minutes. Back, logging in, no data loss, all the program preferences are there, anything that they modified, just how they left it. Okay? It's all hinges on standardization and integrating the tools at our disposal right now in the right fashion. But anyway, you're going to want to create a sense of liberty when you standardize. We allow them to change their backgrounds and their themes and all that kind of stuff, because that doesn't affect the performance of the computer for the most part. Once you standardize, then you can strategize. And this is the cool part. This is where it gets fun. We create just one perfect workstation configuration. We sit down, and I said, gosh, one of the things that really intimidated me about Microsoft's 30-bit operating systems from my very limited exposure to them back in '95 was the fact that it just seemed like you get to a certain point of doing stuff, adding software, and the only solution is to scratch the hard drive and start over. I thought, man, I've got 250 computers out there, and I've got, a couple guys to support it, some good work studies. That's a bad ratio. I'm going to have users down all the time. So we developed a plan where we're going to use, drive imaging software. We chose Ghost. There's other things out there that basically takes that whole hard drive and compresses it, stores it up on a server, and then you can write it back out to your hardware whenever you need to. Okay? That's why it's important to have identical hardware, because you're going to sit and you're going to sit for a couple of weeks and you put your best techies on the job of creating this perfect. We deliver over 50 standard applications under Windows NT. 50 applications. And we sat down and painfully configured each one of them to point the default data save locations to the network home directory. Or, optionally, they would save it to their zip drive, because we ordered all the computers with high capacity local storage. It only costs you $60 a unit when you start ordering PCs to do that. And that solved all the complaints about, well, my files are too big and I gotta take them home, and what do you mean I can't get to my C drive? Right up to zip, That solved that one. But that's what allows us, hey, any problem you have, I'll come up, pull your computer out, put a new computer in, and log you back in, and you're up and running. Okay? We even took this to a greater extent and said, I want it to be a UIP, or a user-initiated process. Right now, any user on my network can log in to a server as the user Ghost, and after confirming several times, it will write an image back onto their hard drive for them. Okay? You don't even have to call the help desk to completely rebuild your configuration. All right? Pretty neat. Pretty neat, because your help desk doesn't have to be open at 1 o'clock on Sunday morning to help the guy that just blew himself out of the water by downloading the favorite screensaver off the internet. It works. It works really cool. We put in all the data save locations, we gave them high capacity and mobile media. We tested and tested and tested that configuration to make sure it was perfect before we duplicated it to 250 other computers. And the other neat thing you can do is start building the client-side books. Now, some of you out there have bought the neat software like remote control and hardware inventory and software metering, and you can't keep the crap working because you don't know what's on the client, and the user shuts it off, or they write it over and they corrupt the registry and the thing doesn't work right. We've all been through that cycle. It's solved. We have application metering clients installed. We've got hardware inventory models installed. Another neat thing is, somebody in the IT department, central IT contacted me and said, hey, Joe, we want you to go in and buy clients for this great workstation backup software. And I said, hey, that's good, because there is no good workstation backup software. Be interested in looking at it. I went over to the product demo and looked at it and stuff and thought, wait a minute, I don't have to back up my workstations. Everything that's original data content is on the server, where it's backed up every night, and you can keep that backup working most of the time, right? Virus protection agents, same way. Remote control software. Now, let me tell you that how you implement it is important as what you're implementing. Okay? 3 years ago, we tried to implement remote control software for our help desk. Immediately, we had letters flying, phone call ringing, deans calling us into their office that Big Brother was on the network. Okay? Faculty found out, they saw their mouse move across the screen one time or something, and the guys were playing with the remote control software and help desk, and I had to pull the service. Because, they saw it as nothing but a huge security infringement. And I put it down considering some of the people I had on my staff at the time, but I had to pull the service, and we lost the advantage of doing it. So we rolled out remote control this time. We created our own icon for the remote control software. It's something that's harmless and very identifiable. It looks just like a red cross symbol, okay? White background, little red cross. And we call it remote assistance. Big difference. And the users have to double-click on that icon, which is on their desktop and on their little start menu. Okay, for everybody, in case you have one of those users that can't get back to their desktop. And they have to click on remote assistance. The only people that have a password to it are my help desk professionals on the front line, and we can provide remote assistance this way, really reliably. And that really ruins something. Everybody loves it now. Everybody, even our toughest faculty, think that's okay. So how you implement it is important. Your SNMP, network operating system client settings, and everything else that users kill themselves by changing or cause your life to be miserable by disabling can be built in, as what I call a client-side book, into your perfect configuration, and you know it's the same everywhere. In fact, network inventory is kind of in the past, because when a user calls my help desk, we know exactly what they have. They've got a Pentium 2 300 with 120 megs of RAM, and this CD-ROM, and that zip drive, and this software installed in these locations. It's just standard. Okay, you need to allow user options, because with every rule, there's an exception, and we found a lot of them. They include custom application deployments and updates. We use Novell's product, which we can stably configure the client side to work well with, right? Because it's consistent. ZenWorks now, network application launcher, so we can distribute application updates from a central location. We can modify registry settings, and we can give them, custom printer, custom scanner drivers, and all that kind of stuff from a central location. And this is a per user option, by user, per user basis. We also create an image library in the network. Okay, so we've got a faculty image. Librarians, library staff have very special needs. We support the library as well. They have their own image. So you'll see versions of DG2, and then we roll them out. DG2 FS is our faculty staff configuration. DG2 LI is for library. LT for laptop. This system works very, very well for laptop support as well. When we check out a laptop, we give them LS120 drives on the laptops, because that's what fits for high capacity local storage. But when we bring it back in, it takes about 10 minutes to redose the entire configuration of the laptop, so you don't have to worry what they messed up before you check it out to somebody else. And you should be able to run this new support platform. Our service desk operation, this is the exciting part, has a 3-step diagnosis for any computer trouble. Okay? 3 steps. Call them the 3 R's. Re-verify, and that's a Novell term, that basically you can re-verify an application on your local computer. It's equivalent to reinstalling the app. So if you got a user that set some configuration settings somewhere, instead of digging down through it, well, first of all, we've eliminated going into the field at all, because remote assistance works. And instead of sitting there playing with the application, figuring out how to fix it again, they just click on now, re-verify, reinstall the application, generally fixes the problem. If it doesn't, we re-host. Hey, why spend time figuring it out? It takes 15 minutes to write their entire image back over the network, onto the local hard drive, and it's back set fresh. Now that doesn't fix it. You got a hardware problem, so we go up into the field and we replace the unit. Okay? We re-verify, we re-dose, or we replace. That's it. That's all the help desk has to do to solve any problem. Pretty neat. What that does is it opens up all kinds of time for my help desk people to do other things. We consolidated a lot of operations. The IT department of the School of Law for the University of Miami now manages networks, computers, audiovisual, facilities, duplication and distribution. There's one other one I can't remember. They've integrated all into our department, because the process for providing really good support for computer troubles is the same for hard drives as it is for toilets. That sounds a little funny, but it's true. You document the details of the problem, you put it into a database, you get it assigned to the hands of the right people to take care of the job, and you babysit that process from cradle to grave and do all the user follow-up and interactions. So my help desk people can literally, the service desk, can answer a call for a networking problem in one call, and an audiovisual request in the next call, and a facilities problem that the bathroom's out of toilet paper in the next call. All goes into a database, it's all the same. But the other thing that it freed up time for is just-in-time training for the users. This really turned out to be the solution, I think, of a lifetime for addressing that problem. Remember, Office 2000 was just released. You're going to have that on desktops pretty soon. You're not going to stop the cycle of new product introductions hitting your users. But just-in-time training is this. If you want to know how to take that number in a spreadsheet and amortize it over 5 years for some odd reason, you're not going to remember if you took a class or did CPT or any of that other stuff. You can call the service desk. And through remote assistance, they'll sit there and train you when you need to know it. Because when you're going to remember how to do things is when you have a need to know how to do things. So that's when the person learns. So my faculty and staff call the service desk when they need to know how to do something. And through remote assistance, we train them right then and there. This created something really cool. The help desk people love to be help desk people because they want to help. Okay? That's why they're interested in doing that job. Problem is, I was losing a lot of my help desk support staff because they were taking a bunch of calls, taking all the heat on the front line, and not ever resolving anybody's problem.
they were escalating back to networking or giving it to somebody else that knew how to fix the problem. Of course, there was no job advancement opportunity for them because they didn't know how to do anything but answer the phone and take the heat. They weren't getting trained. They never got the feedback from the people that actually supplied the solution to the problem. They were frustrated. They didn't want to be there. I couldn't keep them employed at any price. With DG2, they now are getting training on all that software. So they get to go and take classes on campus, which are really affordable for me to send them to through our continuing studies program, if you're lucky enough to have anything like that. And they get all these little Microsoft certifications and stuff, and they know they have all the books there, and when people call, they resolve the problem. They're empowered to resolve people's problems, and now they're helping, and that's how I got people to actually come back from higher paying corporate jobs to work for us and do a good job for us because they could actually do their job. It's phenomenal what little changes and how you implement and integrate the technology once you've got a standard to work with. It's phenomenal how much money you save. I almost hate to talk about it because I'm afraid they're going to downsize my department when they find out how much time has been freed up with these couple of little changes, beginning with standardized hardware and application suites. We resolve, right now, over 90% of all calls before the user hangs up the phone. Resolved. Fix the problem. No more follow-up. No more callbacks. My users don't know what to do with themselves. Even the toughest, grumpiest faculty members are like, well, yeah, it's working pretty good. Yeah, that's just a good compliment from them. But everybody's ecstatic with the level of service they're getting. It's neat. It's been neat to watch the transition because it's been 6.5 years of fighting the good fight and not feeling like I want to go back in for another round. We've reduced our fieldwork 900%. I used to employ 8 FTEs between my permanent, temp, and work studies. I had 8 full-time equivalents out there trying to run around and support my faculty and administrator computers. Because every call, well, there's nothing the help desk can do. We'll have to send somebody right over. Well, if you send somebody right over, even for the simplest things, it's 10 minutes to get there and then fix the problem and talk, and 2 people catch you on the way, and I had a lot of bodies. Right now to support all of the computers in the field, I've got 2 different guys that work part of their day doing field work, where they have to replace, jam printer or something like that. There's very few things that we have to go in the field to resolve anymore. And we were able to do consolidated operations management, and that adds value to the help desk. That's how a service desk should be viewed by the administration. Nobody's going to take a look at my service desk and question how much I've got budgeted for that operation, because there's one number to call in the law school for anything and everything. If you need supplies, if you have a help desk issue, if it's a facilities issue, if it's an audiovisual issue, soon, maybe events planning, there's all types of things that you can make your help desk do really well, by consolidating your operations management. Our system handles everything from purchase order requisitions to, help desk tickets and all that kind of stuff. And we've centralized it now, so nobody's going to pick on that department. That's who everybody loves, because we're providing services in all kinds of areas now. The effects that DG2 has had on IT, I've talked about some of them already. We've drastically reduced our turnover. It's essentially non-existent at this point. We've dramatically increased job satisfaction for the support staff doing that job. We've reduced the necessary headcount to provide those services. And we've allowed for the development of new services and applications. Now, I don't know how many of you fit into this category, but every year I'd go, look at this big staff I've got. And I've even been blessed with a good budget. And I'm running out of excuses, yet, look at what Chicago Kent is doing. And look at what, this school is doing. And look at what this other law school is doing. Well, I'm here to tell you today that staff alone isn't going to solve your problems. If you're thinking, if I just had 2 more FTEs, no. If I just had a budget, if I knew how much money I had to spend, won't solve your problems. Another 50,000 here, another 100,000 there, doesn't solve your problems. They help. There's a staff minimum that's necessary, and you need to know how much money you have to work with, even if it's not enough. I think those are essential factors. But those alone don't solve the problem. You need to standardize. You can't support what you don't know you have. If you've got a computer out there, You knew how it was last time you were in that guy's office, but he's added this utility and that program and modified this configuration setting under there and saving data here and saving data there. You can't support that. That's silly. If you've got a help desk trying to support that situation, you're just being reactionary. You're going to have a new problem every time the phone rings. That's what we had. You're going to have to send somebody out to the field to fix it every time because your remote assistance client isn't going to work even if you do have it and tried to install it at one point. They've killed it. Okay? Standardize. It's a tough sale. It was an 18-month effort at my institution on top of everything else, on top of fighting for jobs and fighting for budget and fighting for recognition and everything else. I had all those same factors to deal with too. It can be done, and I want to inspire you a little bit to let you know you can do this. Take my slides and show them. I've got a little web page up there that talks about the statistics and how much we save. It saves money in the end. And even those users that say standardization is evil love it now that they have it. They really do, because when they click on those icons, it works. Okay? It's something that I'm very excited about. We worked hard on it, and it works. How about the users? What do they think about DG2? Almost 100% participation and satisfaction. I say almost 100%. There are 2 faculty members that don't participate, and you know they have a legitimate academic need. They do things so special with their computer that it didn't make much sense. We put DG2 image on there for them to begin with, and then they really modified it, but they have an understanding. Anything the user adds to their configuration on top of our standard configuration is unsupported. They call it up us and ask questions about it, and we let them know. When we send them periodic emails reminding them of this fact, so that it doesn't slip their mind. And if something been loaded affects our standard configuration, we re-ghost. Sorry. Does that mean I'm going to lose that card game I just got? Yeah, it does. And I would suggest that you don't put it back on there again, and you're not going to have a word processor once you do. It's really effective. Turn the computer toy into an essential productivity tool, which is what it should be. Our user maps along more restrictions on their configuration, which is cool. At the library, user population asked me most recently, can you make this so that you can't do themes, because I noticed some of those themes, break the computer. Yeah, we can do that. We'll lock those up for you. Downtime, it's a thing of the past. Downtime doesn't exist for my users. Okay? That's a pretty bold statement. It doesn't. 18 months. Been running in production for 12. No downtime. Starting to focus on productivity. The users are starting to be productive with their systems, because when they've got things that they can rely on, their email is in the same place, when they click on it, it works the same every time. It's not down, it's not an unreliable service. Even those technophobe users are using the services now to a great extent. Where are we going from here? We have some needs at the University of Miami, because as we're developing staff and budgets and everything else, we're not doing anything phenomenal, like, building new buildings. We do have a need for some administrative applications to continue to be in development. The neat thing is, once they're developed, they're integrated into the image, and they work when we deliver them. They don't fail, I love it when the applications developers blame the network guys for their problem. The network guys are saying, well, it's the code because they're running 32-bit stuff on a 16-bit, all that stuff is gone. Unified data repository, I think we're all kind of hoping for one of those in our law school one day. We're working on that. We're working on global information systems, connecting all the departments to that unified data repository. We're doing some really neat, innovative academic projects now for the first time. Maybe next year at CALI, I'll have my development director come and talk to you about some of those things. But they're kind of neat, artificial intelligence-y things applied to tax and different stuff that nobody's thought of before. But we've got a platform on which we can develop them now. That was missing. We're able to focus on IT as a profession within the academic legal environment. That's why I'm here talking today, is because this was the key to getting started. A champion that cause librarians went through some years back of being recognized as a profession within a professional discipline like law. We're able to focus on that now. We're able to get our points across. We've proven, even to the biggest critics and our toughest skeptics, that what we're doing works. We're able to deliver reliable, secure services.
Here's my contact information, and I just want to say a very special thanks to Ellen Greenfield, my boss for the last 7 years, and very supportive, rallied the cause for staff and budgets and everything else, and the very dedicated staff at UM Law who made DG2 a reality and a success. Thank you.
I was wondering, I'm very impressed by your presentation. I manage a help desk at UC Berkeley Law School, and I'm very much interested in implementing some of the things that you're talking about. Do you have information about the specifics of what you did?
Yeah, I do. And when this gets posted on CALI's site, I'm going to also have a URL there that'll talk about the DG2 project. And I'm going to also, I've already had requests for us to list like the specific applications we use. Now for this and Ghost for that and the other for the other thing. But I'm going to also list, there's other products in those categories. The specific brand and flavor you use to do it isn't as important as doing it in a way that's reliable and integrated into the service strategy. But yeah, there'll be a URL.
Are you using roaming profiles? You're saying if he goes in there, are they come back and saying, okay, all my shortcuts, my favorite are done? Because that would be stored in the profile directory.
Yeah, what we do is we use the method, and I can't even tell you what it's called because I've been so hands-off in the most recent years, where the profile files are on their local home directory on the server. And then it copies it down when they log in each time.
Right, so usually those.
Is that roaming? Roaming profile, that's what I use, roaming profile. You had a question?
Yeah, when you access it remotely, is that with Windows 95 stations or NT workstations?
NT workstations.
So they have to be NT workstations, correct?
Well, everything in our environment is an NT workstation. And I'll tell you, we had real specific reasons for it, staying away from 95 and 98. They're excellent home operating systems. They identify devices and USB and all that other stuff. NT is Microsoft's commercial operating system. We use it because it's got a clean IP protocol stack. There's all kinds of technical reasons. You can lock it down better, all that kind of stuff. So it's NT. I think we use a product called Remotely Possible 32 as our remote control client. Question?
What are you doing on the back end server side so that, if the server goes down, it looks like you're hurting. So,
That was a point that was brought up avidly by the faculty. Well, if the server's down, then everybody's down. All the local software is installed on the hard drive. Our image is what we call a fat image, because we started with thin images, and the now processor was like 6 hours, and that was we learned. Now all that software is local. So if the server's not there, it'll say I can't find the server, and it'll use the last profile that was loaded down onto the workstation. They can still log into the local box. They do not have local administrator privileges except for those 2 users that opted out of DG2. They needed them. We even piped them out onto a separate network. They go right on into the university backbone. We don't let them clogging up because they'll be configuring protocols and stuff and messing up other users' traffic. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
You know how to save any data to the C drive, and it's all either the zip drive to the home drive?
Yes, that was neat thinking when we thought of that, because that solves the problem for maintenance and repair and being able to ghost on the fly. We do have a little bit of glue code. If you want to develop a user-initiate the process to re-ghost, Microsoft doesn't understand networking. I'm sure most of us have caught on to that by now, and they have this local naming convention for computers. We have a little bit of C code that's real small that goes out, reads our DHCP table for the host name, and plugs in the first part of that host name in as their computer name during the process, and then reboots it one more time for that ghosting process, so you don't have to go to the local machine and set up Microsoft's idea for networking.
Is that something you developed yourself, or is that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of C code that was developed ourselves. It's really one of the very few things we had to develop to make DG2 a possibility. It's a little C program that'll run, I think it's called DAMSOC. That was programmed by a frustrated C staff member at the time. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time.